for the first time in history, the EPA relisted a site as a Superfund site because they failed to clean it up.
We're one big family, and we're here to fight for one another.
I was tested by the humans in labs, and they talked about my sickness coming from lead.
This number is 10,000 times what the typical FDA number is. We interpret that as a potential problem.
Clean the land! 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 Clean the land!
When I clean my filters, 5 of them, 5 filters, they're filthy.
In 32 years since you got involved, Ringwood should not be involved. For 32 years, you've allowed this stuff to sink into the earth. When you go to OU4, that's on you.
And what the OBE going to do about it? Stand here and talk to them?
Okay? A cat is the logic of a 10-year-old. The logic of a 10-year-old.
You're all corrupt.
Yeah, he needs to
What would you like to see that about it?
What I want to see us, all of us, coming together and figuring out what to do. Because
My name is Pat Seppi. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency and the community liaison for the Ringwood Mines Superfund Site. And I'm going to ask other people from EPA and others to please introduce themselves.
My name is Joe Gowers. I'm the EPA project manager for the Ringwood Mines Superfund Site.
My name is Doug Garbarino. I'm the branch chief for the site.
South Elementary with EPA Section Chief. Larry Rodriguez, Public Information Officer at EPA.
Hi, Mark Hertzberg, Community Relations for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection.
Hi, Kathy Combs, Technical Coordinator from the New Jersey Department of Protection. Thank you. In a couple more introductions, we have Senator Carbonaro here. Senators, there you are, right there. And also Assemblyman Law.
Again, the highest levels of, in the Peters Market area of the site, the highest levels of benzene and 1,4-dioxane were again found at the bottom of what we call the Peters Mine air shaft. Looking at those contaminants, benzene was detected at 29 parts per billion, and for reference, the benzene drinking water standard is 1 part per billion. With regard to the other monitoring of the site, everything else was below 10 parts per billion for benzene, with most results being considerably below 10 parts per billion. Looking at the deep groundwater results, we can see again that the highest levels of both contaminants are generally found at the bottom of that the Peters Mine air shaft, with the levels of benzene and 1,4-dioxane generally decreasing as you move away from that air shaft. We also sampled in as well in the O'Connor's disposal area, and basically we didn't find any volatile organic contaminants in that area at levels which exceeded drinking water or groundwater standards. And 1,4-dioxane was detected in only one well above the state of New Jersey's inland groundwater quality standard of 0.4 parts per billion. And 1,4-dioxane was detected at a level of 17.5 parts per billion in that one well south of the southern corner of the O'Connor's disposal area, and last year detected at 17 parts per billion. So again, the levels are pretty much consistent. And looking at the groundwater results in the Panama area, we see that benzene was detected in one well above the drinking water standard of 1 part per billion, detected at a level of 3.8 parts per billion in a sample that was collected over 200 feet below ground surface. 1,4-dioxane was detected in 2 wells within the Catamount Pin area at levels above the state standard of 0.4 parts per billion. And those samples were collected at depth greater than 270 feet below ground surface. And then finally, PCBs were detected in 1 groundwater sample at a level which is slightly above the state standard of 0.5 parts per billion. And that was collected in a well about 450 feet below ground surface. Just wanted to point out that the residents at the site receive their water from the public water supply, and that these water supplies are routinely tested. And based upon all this, clearly 1,4-dioxane does not present a significant threat to human health under the current site conditions. Again, no one is drinking the groundwater.
Anyway, the fact that you found PCBs in the groundwater is an unusual situation. PCBs don't generally dissolve in groundwater unless you have a co-soluble effect of a solvent of some type. So does the fact that you found the PCBs in that sample indicate that you have that effect caused by volatile organic chemicals of some kind releasing those PCBs into the water?
Well, I mean, at this point in time, we really don't know why we're seeing that low level of PCBs there. I mean, we can speculate. We know last year we encountered 2 samples that came up with low levels of PCBs in the Peters Mine Pit area. Those samples were reanalyzed, and we found that the PCBs were no longer detected in those samples. So potential laboratory contamination is something that could be a possibility there. The other possibility, and what happens a lot at mining sites, is that a lot of times when the mines are abandoned, electrical equipment is left in place. That includes, the capacitors and so forth, which could potentially contain some PCBs. So that might be why we're seeing it only at depth in that one well at the low level. There might be some residual related to some of the electrical equipment that was left there when the mines were abandoned, essentially. But again, just speculating at this point in time, we may come back. The bottom line is we will be resampling that well. We'll be resampling every year at a minimum these wells. We will resample and see if it's still there the next time.
My name is Tony Bernardo. I'm represent the Sierra Club, and we have a lot of concerns about these recent findings. And we do think that it is disingenuous not to include the fact that there are samplings that have been found that are above New Jersey's groundwater standards on the conclusion side. So I think that's important to include in the future to remind people, especially those in the audience that haven't read the report or don't have access to it. They should know that that's also in there. One of our questions is, given the dozens of sinkholes that occur in this area, as well as the fact that Peters Mine goes down hundreds of feet and there are lateral shifts going down miles at various levels, what is the EPA's plan when, not if, a cap on the site fails, because this contamination will spread further and threaten the people of Upper Ringwood who have been suffering for too long?
Well, I mean, first of all,
You're good. Speak up. It's working.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, the exposure that we're concerned about with the capping, and why we're capping, is to prevent dermal contact with the material. It's not, the remedies we're taking are not specifically designed to, address groundwater. The groundwater situation at the site is the focus of another operable unit. As you can see, we've been doing groundwater investigations at the site, and eventually we will have a feasibility study, and we'll be selecting a remedy for the groundwater at the site. So, as far as the capping, if it were to sink a little bit, and it happens a lot with capping remedies, it gets subsided, the potential responsible party is basically on the hook to continually maintain that cap. They would have to come in and basically repair that cap. And again, the concern with the cap is more dermal contact, preventing people from touching that type of that material.
people in this room don't want a cap, so it's hard to believe that you'll take that into consideration, but we just urge you to.
All right, thanks. So we have a couple more questions here. All right, we did recently have sinkholes that have opened up in the Ringwood area. And I observed from in the past, when they were doing the heavy drilling, and then that's when the sinkhole appeared and Mr. Churchill on Middle South Street. But people still don't understand. These pits are all connected underground from Peter's mine. They connect to Sterling Mine, West Melbourne, all the way to Compton, underground. So I think, they need to pay attention to some going back there too. This is a serious matter. And I will say, they're all paying. Then they did put the cooperatives, to try to meet, figure out what they're going to do. And they had called in the expert, but they talk about remediation, which I can honestly tell you, the only way forward I did be able to do all that, and put on to buy sheds, because that will never happen. With all those pits, I can't see it happening. But I do try to pay attention to the fact that drilling and the openings had a resurgence. So I just want to let you know we did have some recently. All right?
I think Mr. Mudley really explained why we need to excavate O'Connor, because that'll be a permanent solution. And we don't have to wonder whether the board's going to go out of business. We don't have to wonder what's going to happen with the EPA. We don't have to keep coming back here year after year, testing and testing and testing. And these groundwater samples, they've been going on pretty similarly for like 50 years, benzene. And let's face it, 1,4-dioxane has just been found, but it's been there. You just didn't test for it. So I really think that the EPA should reconsider and force the borough and mandate Ford to clean up the O'Connor landfill. And they're going to have to pump and treat that water, which was on the table in 1984, and they decided not to do it. And that was a big mistake then. Also, 1,4-dioxane was found in the Valley Road well. It was found in the Brookside well, which are the Ringwood municipal wells. The Arcadis, and now Cornerstone, I believe it is, and the EPA continue to say that the public Ringwood is using public, municipal public water. Well, it's well water, it's groundwater, and these fractures, I think, like you just found one you didn't know existed, and you keep saying that, and the borough keeps saying there's 30 years of groundwater testing that have documented different levels. Well, I want to see those 30 years of groundwater testing. Because, wasn't it because that you didn't renew the 5-year plan that you were going to look at after the 1984 listing, that the site was relisted? I mean, you were supposed to revisit the monitoring, and it didn't happen?
Well, actually, there was, in the 1988 record decision, there was a requirement for monitoring, and there was implementation of an additional 5 years of groundwater monitoring after that, the post-EMP plan. And after that, actually right before that, the site was deleted. But then there was additional monitoring in the late 1990s and 2000, groundwater sampling at the site, and then again in 2004. So, I mean, there has been sampling over all those years, beginning way back in the early 80s.
Yeah, but they were sporadic. I mean, there's no way that you can really prove what was going on coming out of that Peters Mine pit where all the contamination is. There were years where there were no tests, where there was no testing. As a matter of fact, when I was mayor, I met you in the office. Some of the wells were like clogged up, closed up. They haven't been used in years. So this like talking point that there's been continuous testing and monitoring of the groundwater at the site is totally incorrect. And if I'm wrong, I want to see the tests. I want to see the tests that have been done by Ford.
And also, when it was listed in 1984, it was stated that the Ringwood wells were in jeopardy because they were in groundwater. All of a sudden, that sort of went off the radar. So, you know, they keep talking about this public water supply. Well, the public water supply is groundwater. And it's all connected up here with these fractures. It's complicated bedrock. There's fractures that you just don't even know exist. And the fact that the dioxane was found in 2 of our wells, I think is serious. I really do. I know the town retested in the beginning of this year and it was non-detect, just like you said the one in the reservoir did. But I don't know, as a resident of Ringwood, I think we should be testing this every month. There's loads of dioxin up there that you just found out about in 2013, and the borough and you guys hid it from the public. So I don't know. This whole process is just wrong. He's got to clean it up once and for all. We can't keep coming back here for 50 years and another 50 years.
Good evening. First of all, just in case you guys do not know, the EPA and any other officials that the Ringwood Mines Total Plan has lost 9 members since July. And that is still an issue that I have with all of you sitting up there, particularly you on this end and you on that end. During that time, I sent an email to you, Joe, and on there also was probably Walter, Pat, and maybe a few others. In your response to me, to my email that I had sent you, you said that you guys were distressed by my comments that I made in my email. And the words in my email may have distressed you, but that's a cry for help. And it's the same cry for help that we have been dealing with for 50 years personally for our people and 40 years with you folks. We asked you to go and test all of the municipal wells, even the ones that they are not using. And the reason why we're saying that is because obviously this groundwater that you're referring to has to go somewhere. So if you're finding this, I don't care if it's at 2 million feet into the earth, it's still going to go somewhere eventually, particularly the one for dioxin. There's other chemicals that was mentioned by the Sierra Club that you guys do not talk about up there that were at those levels. One of the things that I was going to talk about as well was the mining collapse. You know, that work is very, very in line with where you tested that well at Cannon. And, you know, I didn't see any of you guys out there. I don't know if the town had called you guys and made you aware of the Cannon mine collapse. We almost lost another radical that very day who stood there and earth was shaking in front of him 53 years to the day that we lost Eric. You know, you guys keep telling us, yeah, no, we're going to do this, and that's how it's going to be, okay, and that's all we hear. On November 22nd, I sent an email out, and then we get a response back as the letter that the town had sent in. And even though they are sitting there saying that, well, you know, if all these things don't come back bad, from whenever it might be, another year from now, whatever, we still might go to the recycling center. You guys gave them a deadline. You guys always give deadlines. You guys always say you're going to do this. We're going to make sure, Maggie said, we're going to make sure that O'Connor area is fully clean. Who gave them the authority to actually say that? Because it was not something that was held to our people, to be sure. You know, so now you're looking at this letter, right, from you guys, dated August 8th. Goes to the borough sent you back one. It was not definitive. You guys say it's not definitive. The answer right now and there should have been that it's not going to be that way. You're only going to proceed with the remediation. You know, and those are the things that we have the issues with. You guys are not consistent with anything you did at all. We also asked that why are you testing, and everybody should get this, everybody. Why are we testing in August? The driest month of the year, when there's severe drought, the Wanacue Reservoir itself is below 48% capacity. It only meets 48 capacity because of the month spill. I mean, we have a lot of issues here. Does anybody want to take a guess why the mine shaft probably collapsed? Because the groundwater is not there like it usually is, keeping pressure against the sides. You heard it from the video itself. There's hundreds of miles of tunnels. There's 17 levels, like 2,400 feet deep. We're going to take and push everything to the middle, put an earthen pad over it, and then concrete, asphalt, and buildings and whatever else. How are they going to inspect that cap? And where in there it is? They're going to have to bust the concrete up and the asphalt up and go and check in those areas as well? I mean, all of those things. Those are things that, I'm uneducated, I really am, but they're so simple to see. You know, you really are committed about saving this community, and 1/3 of the population of New Jersey is water. You guys would be a little bit more attentive to the things that are happening. You know, I don't care if Ford goes bankrupt. I don't care if Ford does anything, except for paying for what has been done. And if the town is responsible for what you're saying that they are, they should be held accountable to that too. And I'm sorry for all the residents that live here, but that's not my problem either. You know? It really isn't. It's about saving these people's lives. You know, everybody gets municipal water now. Okay, but they didn't always get municipal water. And even the town right now, with the last meeting that we had here, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was told when I tried to bring up that there was 4 or 5 town wells, I was told that they're only using one. And I asked you, because I've been told by other people, some would consider them experts, that it's impossible for the town of Plymouth to operate 14,000 residents or however many it is off of one well, the furthest well away, which is Beatty's Lane, which is where there was one when I got things done. So it's not out of the question for me to ask you, as a protector of us, to do that and go to test those wells. You're not going to pay for it, Ford's going to pay for it. Just like they paid for you to be here tonight, just like they paid for Walter to be here, they're going to go college and years to the job. What's the problem? It's not your money. It's time, right? It's just time to get us the assurances. We don't trust you. We don't trust them. We don't trust anybody. And yet nobody cares. You know? This one is practical. These people care about their lives. You know? I'm not saying they don't care about us, but I'm sure that it's because of what amount of the papers and all these other things.
So what are we going to do about it? Keep talking? I don't trust you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people of Ringwood. I tested my water, and I have to tell you, what you guys are saying may or may not be true. Meanwhile, my children drink that water. Well, not anymore, because I invested in a filtration system, and now when I clean the filters, I'm sorry, you need to cut you off, mister, but when I clean my filters, 5 of them, 5 filters, they're filthy. And none of us, none of you people, I don't care where you live, should drink this water. This may or may not be this particular problem that we're talking about, but the truth of the matter is that there's an issue that nobody really wants to handle. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Sit and keep talking? I'm talking to you people of New Jersey, people of Ringwood in particularly, not to them, because I don't trust you people. I'm talking to you. What are we going to do about it? It's in their hands. Nothing. How is the EPA? Nothing is in their hands. It's been years.
Can I ask?
What are we going to do about it?
Can I ask, what would you like to see done about it?
What I want to see, I want to see us, all of us, coming together and figuring out what to do. Because corrupted institution here, Borough of Ringwood.
Full cleanup.
It was corrupted institution. And what are we going to do about it? Stand here and talk to them? You know what? Maybe we need to get together here without those individuals. I'm sorry, I wanted to say a different word, but there's underage people here. But what are we going to do? Maybe we need to get together and talk without them in the room, make decision, and let me tell you, when we come together, we get solutions.
Local election is November 2017. Receipts are up.
All right. Couple more hands here.
First of all, you know your municipal water sample, are you sampling
state drinking water. So we know what their drinking water is being safe.
One well. I asked you if you guys could check.
Well, that's what they're using. They're required to sample. They're required to sample every year.
They're required to sample every single well, whether it is in use.
They are required to sample their water supply every year. And they're also required to report out to you.
Can you answer my question? You're telling me that they're required to sample every single municipal well, whether it's in use or not?
No, what I am saying is their water supply system, they are required for them to sample that every year.
Right, so they're not testing the ones that are not in use, and I'm
they're
asking.
always more specific on what's on their sample.
Right. But you don't want to go into some place where it hasn't been an outlet of the water, because the chemicals that are in there are probably elevated, and you have to explain that away. Why wouldn't you test it? We're asking you as the residents. And you guys work for us. We're asking you to test the water.
First of all, you know that's inaccurate.
First of all, I don't.
There's 4 wells down, Beagley, Valley Well, Library, and, Brookside. They're tested every year. There is no wells to shut down site picture. Those are the 4 wells we're using. Now, the consumer conference reports are mailed to everybody. It's on our website. You know this, and you're being this.
All right, and then I'll stand up for you too. Because you sat right there where you're sitting tonight at the last meeting, and it's recorded when I asked about it because it's on the Highlands maps, the wells. And you said, no, that's incorrect. We only operate off of 1 well, and that's Beatty's Lane. And it's recorded, and you said it. It's not. It is. You're all corrupt. All right.
What is the scientific basis behind conducting annual groundwater sampling during the last 2 weeks of August?
I mean, with regards to that, I mean, that's just the schedule that we have at this point. But we haven't always. I'm not looking for a long-winded explanation. If you have no scientific basis, then say, we have no scientific basis. We sample just as represented in any other time of year in the past.
You know that that's not true. August, the water levels are the lowest ever. September, sometimes lower.
And you're also less likely to have more dilution. So.
I have other questions.
Sampling frequency is going to increase. I think the 4 times a year after the remedy is installed. And we will have it 4 times a year.
It's too late.
So my next one is, after you tested for several different parameters, and the ones that kept coming up with benzene and the 1,4-dioxane. And we talk about what the acceptable level is in drinking water of the one, and what's the acceptable level of drinking water of the other. Has there been any type of analysis on the cumulative effect of them both occurring at the same time in the same water?
There is a risk assessment. We always do a risk assessment when we generate this data. In this case, again, we haven't selected a groundwater remedy at this site.
No, I understand that, but you're talking
about a risk assessment, which is going to have to be modified, given the fact that we now have essentially modified the 1,4-dioxane data that's taken into account. But yeah, there's always a risk assessment that's generated. We look at the cumulative effects or potential cumulative effects of all the chemicals that are detected at the site, and develop a risk calculation, and it sees a certain risk.
So that risk calculation of the cumulative effect of all of the chemicals that are in the water be done before the remedy is finalized and constructed, or after?
It will be done before the groundwater remedy is selected at the site. There already has been a risk assessment conducted for the soil in the 3 areas included by the Congress soil.
The 1,4-dioxane is a VOC, a volatile organic compound. So when you mention that it's not that people aren't drinking the water and therefore they won't be ingesting it because they're not drinking the water, I have 2 comments. And one is, you're talking about a volatile organic compound that's in water that's not going to be drunk. But the nature of a VOC is there are other pathways of exposure other than drinking.
Yeah, so we look at our risk assessment, we look at other pathways, but also what's more dioxide tends to not volatilize. One of our problems, we're actually we're analyzing it as a semi-volatile. It's one of those compounds.
When you go to the EPA website and you look up 1,4-dioxide, and I double checked it before I wrote down this question, it says it is a volatile organic compound.
And we are currently using a semi-volatile organic method to analyze for it because it's one of those contaminants that kind of sits between a volatile and a semi-volatile. Regardless, it's essentially something that doesn't like to come out of the water. But when we look at the risk assessment, when we do our risk assessment, we look at not just consumption, we look at contact, we look at inhalation.
Okay, all right, and that's great that you're saying that, because what you talked about earlier is people aren't drinking the water. You didn't say anything about other pathways of exposure, and that's all I'm trying to get out is that there are other potential pathways of exposure other than drinking the water. The other thing I want to mention is we keep talking about the wells, that we're testing these 4 wells, these 1 wells, however many wells you think we want to talk about we're testing. Everyone in Stonetown has their own private well, and nobody's testing those wells. So it's not just that some of the people are getting town water and the town water is being tested. We have a whole section of this community that has private wells, that have the same exposure to all of the fractures that everyone else does. Who's testing those wells? And I'll tell you, it's nobody. We're talking about trust of EPA or trust of our community or whatever. I don't know that Ringwood was the first, but if we're not, we're definitely one of the first communities where the EPA's selected and implemented remedy for a Superfund site failed. And that's why we are all here again. Because we trusted you the first time and believed you the first time that what you said would work, and it didn't.
We have trusted the EPA to do what the community wanted them to do, which was to clean this up. Instead, a deal was made by a municipal government who failed us in the past also to make a sweetheart deal with Ford, and the EPA signed off on it. We're furious. This is not the way it was supposed to go. We stood up and we came up with a petition to stop this and to have the people's voices heard. Ford and the town hired attorneys to block our voices from being heard. We are tired of you not listening to what needs to be heard. If you persist in this folly of going down this path, where the residents of that area and the community clearly object, we're not going away. This is just going to get uglier, as you've seen indications of already this evening. So do the right thing by Ringwood and the people of the community. Water is a precious resource that we cannot let you be wrong again about. Thank you.
Sorry, EPA, put their big boy pants on and stop playing games. Clean up this site. Okay, borough is not going to do it. You got to put your big boy pants. Calling Andy Hobbs. Get him back here. Clean up this site. I've been coming up here for a decade now. The same before. Representative here. Right over there.
All right. So
tell Andy Hobbs to get here. Put his big boy pants on and come on up.
Lisa Chang and repairs. My third question goes to the November 22nd deadline that you set for the town and the impact that ongoing litigation has on that deadline, on the borough's ability to definitively make a decision to go forward with the construction of a recycling center. I asked you that question in email and I got sort of a lukewarm answer. So, what impact does that ongoing litigation have on the borough's ability to definitively declare to you that it is going forward with that recycling center?
My understanding is that there was a date set by the court on the notice of appeal or making an appearance by an attorney, and that date passed, it didn't happen. I don't know what the current status is.
We actually never received such notice.
I think what?
We never received such notice from the court. We were not served with any such notice. So we have filed the appeal. As far as we know, we also constructed that argument. We have not been served any notice by any court.
So the current demand or requirement that we've imposed upon both board and borough is to recommence the parallel design of the excavation remedy, so that both designs will proceed. It is clear that the design of the recycling center is ahead now, and I think, as Joe indicated, that design is probably expected to be finalized first couple of months of 2017. It will presumably take longer to finalize the design of the excavation remedy. If at any time during this period of time that litigation results in it could result in a determination that the matter should be put on the ballot.
Yeah, we're looking for
what the request would be. And if it gets put on the ballot, and if there is a referendum, and if the referendum succeeds, then I assume, but I do not know, and I don't profess to be an expert on New Jersey state law, I assume that would be binding upon the borough, but I do not know that. That isn't currently the state of affairs. Currently the state of affairs is that the court decision on the trial court was that the referendum, the petition was postponed.
Well, that was the initial decision. The decision has been appealed and is an appeal. We still kind of haven't addressed the question though. The litigation is ongoing and may be ongoing for some time. We've been told we've requested an expedited appeal, and we've been told that these things generally take some time. It may not be, we may still be in court fighting this in 2017. So at that point, we will be in 2017, maybe still by the end of 2017. At that point, can the borough make that decision? I mean, that was a factor that was supposed to be part of this consideration, and that deadline has passed. I'm wondering.
There will come a time when the passage of time dictates the outcome.
Right, that time was supposed to be November 22nd.
Either because one of the remedies is actually started to be built. Once it's started to be built, that's that. Time's up.
So while the litigation is ongoing, if the litigation is ongoing, we will allow another remedy to begin to be implemented. That's the question.
The answer is probably yes, if the time stretches out to the point where that construction could begin. Our goal is to have the construction, whatever remedy is going to be, have that construction begin as soon as possible.
But I would like to also talk about the one board diaspora that we found. You talked about the level of sound in O'Connor as being very significant, right? There's a 17 parts per billion that was down last year, now 17.5, so they're relatively consistent. But the actual level, right now for the state of New Jersey is 0.4 parts per billion, and in your fact sheet about 1/4 dioxane, which is the primary way that the community can learn about EPA stance on this medallion, you say that it is likely to be carcinogenic to humans by all routes of exposure at concentrations of 0.35 micrograms per liter. So why is that 17.5 parts per billion too small to detect an increase? And why is it considered significant at the site?
Well, first of all, we didn't say, we pointed out that it's above the standard. It is above the state standard, which is not a promulgated standard. Now, we have to also understand, we're going to be doing a groundwater risk assessment, which is going to take into account the values that we're seeing in the groundwater and evaluate whether or not keep in mind that when EPA implements and looks at the remedy, our acceptable risk range is 1 in 10,000 to 1 in a million, and that level would put us somewhere in between that. So it's not even at the level where EPA would be required to take action.
All right, now when the testing happens, we did.
Can someone fix his microphone? Is anyone here in charge of the mics?
Yeah. I can, but I'm not the facilitator.
Just like the way, just fix the mic.
Okay, and so then my next question was about this, we've had this past time testing was reported in October, we had a round in the spring that was reported in August, right? The results in August, they were reported, they were split sample results, right? And the sample that Ford sent to its lab, and the sample that the borough sent to its lab, came back with vastly different results. This time around, was split sample testing performed.
Well, this time around, what happened is back in May, or actually towards the May, the limited sampling round, was that there was a difference in the way samples were analyzed. This time around, Ford utilized a method that the borough used the last time around. So they're using the more stringent method this time around.
So we asked them to change the methods, and you
Yeah,
guys
has changed the
thoughts
method.
that
They are doing the isotopic evolution for the one for that.
what kind of oversight is there for Ford's testing being performed, besides that they are recording the results of that testing?
I mean, we go out there sometimes. Last year, for instance, we actually split samples. This year, we didn't split samples.
Why not?
Because we don't go out every time, split samples, we don't split all
Right,
samples.
but what's the rationale for doing it sometimes and not others?
Just to make sure that there's no problems with the data in terms of the functional laboratory.
Well, and then there are problems with the data, and the next time testing is not split. Would it make sense to do it again and split those samples and see if those problems persist?
Around before was split by the borough, so.
Right, so it's just the failure of our officials, basically.
It's not failure. It's basically, we sample just occasionally to verify the data. We don't sample every round, and we don't split every well. If we were going to do that, we would do multiple sampling ourselves.
It's not a question to ask, but what are we going to do?
Let me just say something. I think that what's happening right now is happening in many, many, many different parts of the United States and the world where people come together and they say no more.
Yeah, I understand that.
I understand bureaucracy, and I understand people, look at them and they look at them, and it's looking inside. And you know what? If you and I and she and he will finally decide to say, you know what? No more. We want justice. I pay thousands of dollars a year for my filters. I want somebody to pay me back. I don't have the answers, but I do have the passion, and my heart is aching and bleeding to see Ringwood getting the reputation or getting the contamination. It hurts me to know that people drink the water without even knowing what's in the water. And it's not just in Ringwood, it's everywhere. It hurts. So I'm here to express myself, to say, if you and I, just the people, the residents, don't come together, there is no future. We give those people power. And the moment we stand up and we say, no more for you, no more for you, I don't know how you guys go to sleep at night.
The point here is very simple, okay? I'm reading this. Benzene was detected at a concentration that exceeds its drinking water standard of 1 ppb, whatever that means, in only one groundwater sample collected from the Cannon Mine area. One sample is one sample too many. Okay, it should be 0 samples. Okay, all this stuff should not be popping up anywhere. And you know why it's there? Because we're not moving the soil. It's a simple thing. My 10-year-old cleaned her closet 3 weeks ago. She was 10 years old. First time. She said, I'm going to clean the closet. I said, you're going to clean the closet or else you're not going to go to basketball practice. Okay, so she said she's going to clean it. She cleaned it. It looks good. Okay, but she created her own little cap. Okay, and under the cap was a monumental scientific experiment. When we lift the cap. Okay, a cap is the logic of a 10-year-old. The logic of a 10-year-old.
Now, I've said before, and I'll say again, I understand that you're not happy with the remedy selection that we have made. But that's the remedy selection we have made, we're going to see to it that it gets carried out. So, anything is possible. Congress can change the laws.
Why can't you change your mind?
We operate in ways that we believe is appropriate given the laws and the rules that we've made. I've had conversations before as to why we made the selection we made. Everybody here understands that, I believe. I know that you don't agree with it, but a remedy is going to get installed at this site, including the O'Connor disposal area, and we will see to it that it happens.
Walter, what we don't understand is that originally you said that removal was a good idea, and that was the remedy that was agreed.
As we have explained in the past,
The town came
When,
You said, okay, fine.
we've explained this in the past, I'll do it again, because some people may not have had occasion to be at the previous meetings. Under the law, we are obliged to take into account in selecting a remedy what the reasonably anticipated future use of that land will be. At the time when Natty Stanislaus was here, in February of 3 years ago, at that time I announced, we announced, that because we anticipated that the future use of the O'Connor disposal area land would be as open space, that is how it's being used right now, and we anticipated that that would be the continued use. Therefore, we were prepared to stretch our authority, and I'll use that phrase advisedly, and conclude that in order to assure a long-term effective remedy in an open space use, excavation was the better answer. And then, that is when the borough came forward, literally 2 weeks before we were prepared to issue our proposed plan.
And you caved.
And the borough said the future land use will be what in legal terms is called commercial. It will be a recycling center. At that point, the one hook that we had hung our remedy on, which was open space as land use, disappeared. We don't own the land. We don't control how it's going to be used. The municipality owns the land, and the municipality controls how it's going to be used. And once we were told a recycling center will be built there, and it will be of restricted use, restricted access, at that point, the legal basis that we felt we had to require an excavation remedy was no longer in existence.
No way.
So we said, under the circumstances, we said, hey, we gave a cap, as is done on virtually every landfill in the United States and elsewhere. A cap is a protective remedy. We recognize that a cap requires long-term maintenance. We recognize that. Caps are used almost universally at landfills. So, I understand that people are uncomfortable about that and unhappy about it, but it is true at virtually every single landfill in the United States.
We don't care, we don't.
I understand that.
We pay the taxes, we pay the bills.
I'm under the impression people did live in this area that is affected, but now you're saying it's commercial use. So, how is it commercial use while still living on it?
The piece of property itself is what we're talking about. The O'Connor disposal area, it's a fine piece of property on the map. It's a tax parcel that's owned by the borough. That's the land use that we were talking about. Originally, it is currently being used as open space. It's currently being used as open space. At the time that we were making a decision as to where we were going to head on the remedy proposal, we assumed it would remain as open space. That assumption was caused to be changed when the borough came and said, no, it's not going to be open space, it's going to be used as a recycling center.
So now, what would the other land? There is still people who are living on that land.
Not on the O'Connor disposal area, they're living right here.
The land that is affected by this, and the land that does have issues. So why is that not a legal precedent to clean it? Why can you not use their residential property?
I'm telling you how the law is administered. I'm happy with it, but that's the way it is.
But why can you not use that as a loophole down that particular landfill and say, well, the residential areas need to be cleaned as well? Why is that?
If the residential areas were found to be contaminated, they of course would be.
Okay. Have tests been done on this residential property? Have tests been done on this residential property?
Yes.
And what have they found?
There have been a very few pieces of property that have found had elevated lead levels on them. They were cleaned up.
What's the World Health Organization acceptable limit for 1,4-dioxane? Yours is 200 parts per billion. What's the World Health Organization?
I don't know.
It's 50. It's 50. And yours is 500 times above New Jersey's. I'm a little concerned about those numbers right there. And benzene, that 29 parts per billion there?
That's correct.
Can we get deeper testing in the mines? Can we actually know, just once, before you go to OU4, by the way, OU1, 2, 3 are not a big deal. These are surface things. Imagine a pot of coffee having been made 2 or 3 times. You're not getting a strong cup. But it's all gone down in the earth, and our tests show that. It's in the wells, it's deep. When you go to the groundwater, can you please go down and test below your shallow wells? Can you get down to the floor?
At this point in time, we do not have wells that are 2,000 feet deep. We do have wells that are approximately 500 feet.
It's been 32 years since you got involved. Ringwood should not be involved. For 32 years, you've allowed this stuff to sink into the earth. When you go to OU4, that's on you.
Yes.
All right, one last question over here. And now we're going to change the zoning to enable the polluter to not have to remove it. That makes my job better, that's great. There's enough we can go. Hey, there's never mind in this beautiful town that provides water to many, many people. I don't know. I was told, see, I don't know this, is it definitely true that water from our reservoir also is sent to the Oregon reservoir? So it's not just the direct people that drink from our reservoir, which includes this town as we drink the groundwater. There are a lot of people potentially affected by that pollution.
3 million.
The potential, I think it's more, but okay, 3 million, that's a lot. It's the potential. I understand, you can see it's only gone so far to this point. We also, in this town, set a record with how far pollutants have traveled in a short period of time. MTBE, I'm sure you're aware of the situation. So, this is a very complicated issue. I'll be the last one to argue that. But in simplicity, this town should be able to go on the recycling center, number 1, and number 2, it should be cleaned out. It's like, I go over there every day because I have a dog, it's fenced in, it goes back there. I don't cover things up, I remove it. It's simple, it's my backyard. That's it.
No question that if there had been a referendum, it would have probably made everybody's decision-making process clearer. But there is a referendum and it hasn't happened. And it needs to be I do want to respond to one other thing you said, and that is about where 1,4-dioxane comes from. Regrettably, it was used widely in a variety of consumer products, for example, baby shampoo, and literally if you threw out a baby shampoo bottle that happened to have been made with this material, and you threw it out and it was still half full, you could probably account for some of the levels that we are finding in this one well. So that is one of the problems with 1,4-dioxane. That's why the gentleman earlier mentioned correctly that it is one of the 10 chemicals that EPA is going to be evaluating under the new Toxic Substances Control Act reform law that was passed, this amazingly passed on a bipartisan vote this past year in Congress. And it is 1,4-dioxane, as we're now learning, is in lots and lots and lots of different places. In the Long Island, for example, 1/4 of all of the municipal water supply systems have some level of 1,4-dioxane in them. Fortunately, not generally at the levels that we consider to be concerns, but again, people here have made the questions about what are the levels of concern, and there are different levels that are identified at different EPA, by the World Health Organization, by the state of New Jersey, the state of New York. So whoever said it correctly. We don't know everything there is to be known about these chemicals. I understand that. We're obliged to work on the basis of the information that we have right now. What I do want everybody to understand is that 1,4-dioxane is a painfully common pollutant that we're now discovering throughout the United States. So other municipalities, other residents, other citizens are grappling with the same kinds of problems, as are we elsewhere around the country.
It's called the precautionary principle. In Europe, you've got to prove it's safe. You don't have to prove it's toxic.
That is correct.
That's what you should be using here. We shouldn't have to, they should prove that level is safe. We shouldn't have to prove that it'll kill you.
And I will point out also that there are something on the order of 80,000 chemicals that are in commerce right now, and comparatively few of them have been studied in detail, although there are classes of chemicals that include many of those 80,000, where a member of the class has been studied in detail so you can make inferences. But the fact is there are way more chemicals than there is the ability to evaluate them in detail. to determine what their toxic impact is. That's another very sad side effect or consequence of our industrialized society.
Hi, my name is Doug Snow, Ringwood Cares. I have an article right here that was published on November 29 from the EPA website, and it's saying that they are doing certain chemicals that you guys test for are going to be reevaluated to see, I guess, to get more information of it under the TSCA reform. And under the first 10 chemicals that you guys will be testing for, will be evaluating, the first thing on the list is 1,4-dioxane. This CAP plan that we're going to be doing is going to be covering the problem. Anytime we look at it, we're literally covering this problem, most likely to be dealt with at a later date. Obviously, what we see here, being 1,4-dioxane, is going to be retested or reevaluated to get more information upon. We're making final decisions on things that we don't even really know too much about. We just found 1,4-dioxane in there. The dumping took place half a century ago. There were probably more things in there that we don't know about. So either we take more time to let the toxicity sit there and fester to discover more chemicals, probably somewhere down the line, or we can just know for a fact that we'll be safe by taking it all out. So not only environmentally is it logical to do so, but financially it's logical to do so. You know, we're going to need to be dealing with all this upkeep with this cap as well. Now, aside from that statement, my question is, with this cap, we're going to be getting a recycling center on top of it. From all the research I've done, and many of the people have done regarding the cap procedure, there needs to be constant maintenance on it and servicing every 5 years. What kind of monitoring will be able to go down, proper monitoring at least, if there's a recycling center on top of it? And furthermore, if something goes wrong with this cap, is the recycling center going to need to be taken up? And it needs to be repaired, what are we going to do with this recycling center? And then even further than that, who's going to be paying for it down the line?
Okay, but with regards to the recycling center, again, if the cap fails or the cap is an area where it's a little subsiding and it cracks, it gets repaired. I mean, that is as simple as that. The potential responsible parties are going to be on the hook.
What about the
Again, what Joe said earlier is important to remember. In this context, the purpose of the cap is to prevent people from touching the contaminated soil, if it's contaminated soil. The purpose of the cap in this instance is not to try and prevent rainwater or so from percolating down. If it's an asphalt cap, it'll do that, it'll run off to the side, it'll be collected and managed, but that's not actually the purpose of the cap. The cap in this case is simply intended to prevent people from coming into contact with soil that may be contaminated.
The cap is going to be covering a section of toxicity that we don't know fully. We don't understand completely. So where is the logic and the scientific basis of covering an issue that we don't know 100% about? We can't say 100% that nothing will leach. We can't say 100% that the cap will never fail. We've never necessarily seen a cap succeed. But what we have seen is caps fail. So where is the logic and the scientific basis of leaving this contamination there? I guess that's a good question.
I understand your point, which is that by definition, a capping levee requires maintenance. And by definition, if you excavate all of the contamination material, by definition, you have nothing further to maintain. That is true.
That's a great idea, Walter. That's a great idea.
That is not how the law has been written or carried. Municipal governments speak for their municipality.
No, they don't.
That is the way it is.
No, they don't.
But so you see,
I understand your point, which is that you don't feel that they are speaking for you right now. I'm simply making a statement of the way our legal system works. Is that when we, the federal government, need to be informed about what, for example, what a land use for a particular piece of property is, we look at the municipality and say so. We do not make, at the federal level, land use decisions. That is the prerogative of the municipal government.
But the EPA's purpose...
Your question was a little different, which is, you feel it is unfair for populations today to be in any way responsible for the poor judgment of previous populations decades ago, regrettably, that is the way everything is going on. In other words, all of the environmental problems that we are facing, virtually all of them, are the result of ill-informed decisions that were made in the past.
Right.
And all of us, in one way or other, are paying to do whatever correction of that problem may currently exist. Whether we pay through our taxes to the municipal government, or to the state government, or to the federal government, or whether we pay through the costs that we pay for the goods that we buy from the companies who are paying for these cleanups, one way or the other we pay for them. And that's perfectly appropriate. That is what it is, otherwise nobody pays for it. The assumption leading up to that arrangement was that there would be a capping remedy for the O'Connor disposal area, because that is universally how landfills are remedied. Whether you like it or not, that is how it is done in virtually 100% of every landfill case. So having no prior information as to what the EPA would make, when the borough and Ford entered, when the borough's insurers and with them the borough and Ford entered into negotiations, they assumed that there would be a capping remedy, because that is a logical assumption when you're dealing with a landfill.
It's not a landfill.
It is not. And a dump in a landfill in this context was the same. So, again, you can ask them whether that's the case or not. I wasn't present at that. We were not parties to those discussions. But that is my understanding of how they came about to reach a conclusion as to who would pay.
Another question I had is really about, you mentioned the future use. And so you mentioned that there was a law that requires the future use be incorporated into this process, but can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I don't believe that any of the coded regulations, CERCLA, or any statute provides that the future land use should be a part of the remedial action selection.
Yeah, the basic regulation that the Superfund program operates under is called the National Contingency Plan. Give you a citation to it.
Yeah, 400.400.
It specifies in it that when we select a remedy, we are supposed to take into account the anticipated future land use.
So that goes over and above the 9 criteria, the balancing criteria?
Part of the 9 criteria, because in the first criteria is to make sure that the remedies we select must be protective of human health and the environment. And in order to determine what is protective of human health and the environment, you have to understand how a piece of property that is contaminated is going to be used, and therefore what the possible pathways of exposure to people and other biota are might be.
Yeah, but that's just the initial threshold criteria, and all of the remedies would have provided that overall protective.
Right, and we always have to take into account the future anticipated use.
Exactly. So I think that's a bit of a moot point there, in that they're all being protected 5A and 4A, so the excavation of the cap will also meet those criteria.
No, because what we concluded, and as I said, we'll be candid, this was a stretch. What we said is, if the future use continues to be unrestricted open space, which is effectively how it is currently today being used, or has at least, since now, but up until a couple of years ago, it was an unfenced open area. People could walk into it, they could play in it, they could do whatever they wanted in it, and it looked, at least to a layperson, it looked indistinguishable from the parkland nearby. And it was, I think, functionally being used as part of the park, and that is how we anticipated it would continue to be used. What we said was, ordinarily, you would cap a landfill or a dump or a disposal area, whatever word you want to use, ordinarily that would be capped. In order for a cap, by the way, to cap it, you have to clear away all the trees and then put down a cap. At that point, we hypothesized that people would start to use it as an open big meadow. Because the grass would have to be mowed indefinitely. And people would maybe drive all rain vehicles onto it, or they would do other things on it that would cause that cap to constantly be in need of maintenance. What we said is, in that context, where there is unrestricted access, and the likelihood that the cap will constantly be damaged as a result of the use, and constantly have to be maintained as a result of the damage, it makes sense to eliminate the need for a cap by excavating the disposal area. That is the assumption that changed when the borough came and said, it's not going to be unrestricted access, it's not going to be open space, it's not going to be used for recreational or whatever open space purposes there might be. Rather, what we're going to do is we're going to place our recycling center there, have that be restricted access in the normal way that the recycling center would have that kind of restricted access, and that will function as a cap, and that cap will be maintained.
Okay, so
That was our assumption saying change.
That selection is basically less effective. So, the issue with basically the excavation and the cap. The cap is a overall less effective remedy that you have selected based on your record decision.
No.
That's what I'm saying. That's incorrect.
That is incorrect.
No, I'm saying you're incorrect. It's basically the record decision, right, the overall effectiveness. You have, if I can be specific here. Long-term effectiveness and permanence, reduction of toxicity, mobility, volume, through treatment, and short-term effectiveness. Right? Those are the criteria for overall effectiveness. Correct? And the treatment has to be cost-effective. Right? If this was $32 million, it's 5 times the cost. So it had to be, at least in excess, the effectiveness had to be greater for the excavation than the other remedy, than the capping remedy. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, then the rod's incorrect. And you're finding
I disagree with you, but we're just going to argue back and forth and won't be very productive. What we concluded is that the excavation remedy is protected and a capping remedy is protected from
You're saying protected, and that's the wrong word. We know that's misleading. Protected, all of them have to be protected. We know that there's a threshold criteria. Every single one of them has to be protected. I said effective. Effective. Overall effectiveness.
I'm not sure we're just arguing, so I don't know that it's very productive.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's why we don't trust you, because you're not answering the question.
Well, I can answer the question. I'm telling you that we concluded that both remedies are effective for what we are obliged to do, which is to be overall protective of human health and the environment. We use traffic remedies effectively, and they are protective.
Don't they both have to be cost effective?
Cost efficacy is one of the 9 criteria. We did not make this decision based upon cost.
But they have to be cost
not
effective.
make this decision based upon cost.
Okay, but they have to be cost effective,
Yes.
right?
Each
So
of them
one
is
that's
cost
5 times as costly has to have a requisite increase in effectiveness. Correct?
No, I disagree with you. We're just going on semantics, sir.
No, we're not doing this. Is in the law. That's what the code that you just referenced said.
I'm afraid that we're just not going to
Okay, so the last point, the issue. So you're basically saying that future land use was dictated by the council, correct? Which, again, helps them reduce their costs based on their decision, right? And they're the potentially responsible party for cleaning it up. That's a conflict of interest. If they're able to decide and mandate how you guys make your decision, and they're the potentially responsible party.
That is correct.
What sort of, remedial actions do you have for that? Like, how do you have none?
I'm telling you that it is the obligation and the responsibility of the way of the municipality to determine how land will be used within its zoning authorities. And in this case, the municipality happens to be the owner of the land. So it's not even a question of zoning, they just simply say, we're owning it.
You never thought of this conflict of interest coming up and having some way to...
We can all, as an individual, I can agree with you that there may be a conflict here, but I'm sorry to say that it doesn't make it an inappropriate or illegal decision.
And then last point, I would just like to say, you guys had your chance the last time to make a decision on how to clean this up. Just give us a chance to do it.
Appreciate that. My name is Jefferson Lasalle. I'm on the board of Compliments Residents for Environmental Integrity, and I just want to say we're going through a contamination issue in our town as well, and I am appalled at how similar our situations are. I really, really am. And I understand that you guys have to operate by the law, but frankly, when the conversation is that the majority of the people are saying that they want the site excavated, and the EPA's answer is no, we're going to do a cap because that's what the law says, that kind of foregoes the part about human health and the environment, that there is a reasonable understanding here that this cap will eventually break down. And as that happens, there's a lot of room for environmental damage. I would say that, number one, the thing to do is to first get with the people who've already organized, like Virginia Man, like Chief Man, like the Ringwood Cares organization. They've been doing this for a long time, and I know for myself, which I've been doing this for almost a decade at this point, only because I have to. I'm not an environmentalist, I'm a musician, so for me, it's all new. It's all something that I've learned over time, and I've learned a hell of a lot about it because I've attended meetings exactly like this for a very long time. What I can tell you is, number one, you guys are doing a really great job just because you're all here. At our meetings in Park and Way, we're lucky if we can get the first 2 rows here to show up. So I want to commend you as a community for the fact that there were so many people here tonight. The way that you can prevent it here is to go to your borough council. You need to take all the people, seriously, you need to take all the people that were here at this meeting tonight, and you need to show up at every council meeting until they change their mind and decide not on that recycling center. Because then you need power to be able to help you out. That's the only way that this is going to be solved. And let's make a bigger noise in the north part of this state that's going to be heard. That's going to be heard the same way that they heard the people in Flint, Michigan. Because until we get that national coverage, this situation is